Hi, welcome to the Ready, Set, Activate podcast, your home for all of your active gaming needs.
Today, we're talking with someone who is making waves in the Activate community, Bryan, also known as Admiral X.
Bryan, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to always talk about Activate, something that I think we can all agree that is something to be fun and passionate about.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's awesome. Even when I started this podcast, I was hoping to kind of connect with people around. I've been to locations like Regina and Winnipeg, but it's super cool to be talking with people from Edmonton and stuff like that. And hopefully it goes at some point to the US and global. So yeah, no, it's awesome to have you on. Speaking of which, yeah, you're currently ranked number 2 in Edmonton South. That's amazing. What's it been like competing at such a high level? And what would you say is the key thing to staying consistent at the top?
I was number 1 for a little bit and then I got passed. But I'm not necessarily going to chase the first, but I would say
That's fair.
One of the main things is just having a group that you enjoy going with, and then just, especially being passionate about it and finding your way. We are not always pushing our leaderboard. Sometimes we're just wanting to do badges. Sometimes it's just running around. For myself, one thing for me is
Totally.
I just wanted to be more physically active, and it's a good way to do that, especially because you can dial your pace up or dial it back and go and play a room that's a little bit more mindful, or you can just run around like crazy.
Honestly, yeah. No, I love that. And do you remember who is it that passed you? Who's on the top of the leaderboard right now?
It's the guy who won our Tournament of Champions. His name's Taxman D. He's
sounds familiar.
Somebody who I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple times, and everyone in the community is very him and his group are quite nice to talk to, and strategize and pass along knowledge to one another.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm not a spring chicken, so to speak. So the people who have a little bit more physical prowess are naturally going to be passing us over time. But no, the group that we go with, we're enjoying, and I have the person who's in 3rd right now for our leaderboard is also somebody who I've gone with quite a bit, and I think there's a group of about 5 of us now that are in the top, I think 15, that are all kind of grouped together. So it's just
awesome.
It's a fun activity, and I always feel like I want to pull more and more people into Activate. So whenever I have out of town guests, it's hey, do you want to try this thing? And I kind of feel like the first one's free on me. So I would love a referral program, but
Totally. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I'll keep that in mind next time I'm on a podcast with Adam. He told me to ask some questions from the fans. So, Adam, this one's coming your way. So speaking of kind of how you love Activate, and you can tell you're super passionate about it. How did you first get involved with Activate yourself? And what was it that kind of drew you into the game in the first place?
So, my friend that I've known since I was 3 years old, messaged me one day, basically being so I've been going to this place called Activate that I think you'd really enjoy. We all get drawn in by the video game nature of it. But I just hadn't gone yet. And then one of the group of friends that I hang out with regularly, his wife had gone as a girls' night out, and he's we should go. So we went, and then a week later, I messaged another one of my friends being hey, we're thinking about starting up going regularly. Would you like to join us? And then just kind of that one particular friend and I, we are very much into games, and we actually work in the video game industry. So it's that kind of natural slotting in just wanting to do something more active and just go and have that. Plus there's the social competitive nature or the badges. It's just something that's really enjoyable, and if you get into the mindset of wanting to play games, that is just an avenue to do it. So we started actually back in February of last year, so we're just about at 1 year where we've been going on a regular basis. So
Yeah.
Still a relative newbie in the
That's
scene.
awesome. Yeah. No, yeah, I get that. I remember when I was the newbie, I was like the Ty's the new guy, and now it's like there's people that have been playing for like under a year or so, and I'm like, man, like now I feel old, but it's lots of fun. Yeah. So being so close to that number one spot, especially when you were there before, again, I know that most of the time, like the Activate community is very friendly, but have you created any rivalries, maybe even with that top player or anyone on that team?
No, not in that. One of my friends that I go with, the person who's in number 3, we have a bit of a rivalry for a little bit. Like it's a joking rivalry in a sense because we almost always play together. But I would say it kind of started when we were first qualifying for the tournament, and so we had been playing together and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then we were going, and it was like we had like 2 minutes left in the session, and we go to scan into the room as a group of 5, and he hits start before I scan in. So at the last possible minute, at the last time we went, he passes me for the monthly, and I'm like, okay, I guess we have a little bit of a rivalry now. So, and I had gone like a couple times without him, and so I was able to gain some points on him, and then. During the practice night, he was like, okay, he's like, we had a little bit of a back and forth, and now he's within, I think, 1,000 points of me. So, but it's one of those things where we always have that kind of that. And now it's like, okay, so if I go and do a game that he hasn't done with him, then he's going to pass me, or do I try to do a game that he's done without me? And so it's a little bit of a fun back and forth.
Totally.
But I mean, he already performed better than me in the tournament, so he's got that bragging rights over me. So
fair enough. Yeah, that's completely fair. No, yeah, something that I think is nice about Activate is like when I talk about rivalries, I'm just talking more about stuff like that. I don't think that there's any like crazy beef between any players or anything like that, which is really nice. But yeah, no, I like what you're saying because I can kind of see that even like when it comes to like me and the kids. Like I'm almost at the top of the leaderboard, but also like the space between me and the people ahead of me is like really big. But at the same time, it's like I am competitive with them, and I'm like, hey, like I'm gonna beat you guys' high scores, and like it's all in fun. It's not like we're trying to like knock each other down or whatever, but it's just a friendly kind of competition, and I love that aspect of Activate itself. Yeah. So speaking about Activate being a little bit of a competitive space sometimes. How do you manage all the pressure, especially when facing off against top tier players like in the tournament?
It was more about fun. Like honestly, the fact that for the tournament, like of our group, all 5 of us technically qualified, but one decided that they didn't want to go, so it was just 4 of us. So it was like, it was just a better fun, like especially just going out and again just having the opportunity to go and play, and then. Or discuss the strategy of like this is what it is. So I know for ours we had the like top 10 people that qualified in the first in the qualifier, where it was a lot more of a serious group than the next 10 in the finals. So it was just joking. Plus the staff at our location are great, so it's just fun to joke around, and it's like you kind of know that where your placement is. And like I went into the tournament not feeling super confident about 15 green, so it was like, well, if I don't make that, I'm not going to qualify anyway. So let's just have some fun with it and try to get some photos. So
totally. Speaking of which, did you complete the much dreaded 15?
No, I did not. I was 1 basket short in round 2.
Man.
I was also a little disappointed. Our location had Climb die during the first final. And I was like, and I was in the second bracket. I was like, I'm going to try some new strategies. I'm not going to try to place high. Yeah, Climb was probably my best game that I was most confident about. So I'm like, well, there that goes. So
yeah. So for somebody trying to break kind of into those top ranks, what piece of advice would you give? And is there any particular skill or mindset that you feel like is essential to reaching the next level of success?
I would say for myself, one thing is try to recognize for some of the games where less is more and more is less. In a sense, like some games definitely are easier with 2 people. So you can kind of break those in and like try to change up your group or whatever, or even just discussing strategies. Or sometimes just come back to it after a while. I know there are some games where it used to be quite difficult for us, and then we are just able to destroy our games comparatively because we took some time just to think about what it is that makes the game difficult versus easier. Like I know recently for us, we've looked at for Strike, for some of the games, doing them in parallel. So like Dartmouth, sometimes you can have it so you like divide by rows, and that just makes it easy. So it's a bite-sized morsel comparatively, or just sometimes just changing the way you do things as opposed to brute forcing can certainly help as well. Or even recognizing, like, if you go back and replay through some of the earlier levels, that sometimes they're building on the concepts that will help you in later. So if you know that there's like a particular part of the level that you struggle with, there might be that component like a little bit slowed down in an earlier one, or a little bit easier, that you can practice that and get kind of the rhythm. Like stereotypical would be like order up 4 compared to 9. It's just go into order up 4, and as opposed to running back to the green, try to jump on over top of the pattern a little bit more, and then that will help you when you're doing 9, because it's just jumping twice as often, basically. Don't be afraid to try new things.
For sure. Yeah. No, I like that. I think like that is kind of the essence of it. Like you're saying, it's just like, again, trying those new things, being like, okay, like instead of just quitting a level as soon as you can't beat it right away, it's like, think about it. Like what's stopping you from that, and what could we change our perspective on it? Like, I love how you're bringing up, Dartmouth, making kind of like the rows in a sense of like, hey, we take this section and this section and this section, like just little things like that. Or even like in Hyde, I remember when I first played with Gondam and Lily, they explained like everybody takes either a corner or a wall, and it's like, it makes so much sense. But what, like, before you get good, it's kind of like, okay, you're just doing a mad dash and everyone's looking for the lowest number. But it's like, yeah, when you're really able to kind of take it in and kind of swap that view to something a little more strategic, it can really help your score and just your gameplay in general. What's your experience been like within the Activate community? Have you had the chance to collaborate with any other players that you admire, or have you made any good friendships through that?
I think the like practice round actually with the tournament was a great meeting place, because we all kind of have our different times that we go. I mean, I don't think anyone's really going to be making too many friends if you go just in the middle of a Saturday or a Sunday, because it's just way too busy. I mean, maybe you're far more extroverted than I am, but we tend to like go when it's quiet, and then so there are some groups that go on different times, and but there are some people I know through different communities that now we've kind of like cross met people. But yeah, somebody from the tournament that we met, I've gone with them once, and then this week they're going to be joining our group, so it's kind of that cross pollination. But yeah, a number of people that it's like I haven't seen for years that now we're like engaging more in within this community as well. So, I mean, Edmonton is a little bit more out of there compared to the rest. I mean, the next closest, I guess, is Calgary, but I mean, Winnipeg has the same, but it's not like, in the Toronto area where there's like 5 different locations that you can cross pollinate that way.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad that like I didn't get involved in the community until like this year comparatively, because I don't know if it's still the case or not, but I know Crazy Chris was number 1 at Edmonton West when he came here, I think for 1 week. And I'm like, if I had known and been involved in that community, I definitely would have like reached out and tried to, meet up with him or whatever at the time. We got that travel ability now in Discord, so gotta make use of that and join that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Speaking of kind of like teammates and getting together and connecting with people, who's your go-to team for game day?
So that would be Dreamer Roxas. Is the person I go with quite a bit. Josh in a Hat is the other person I go with quite a bit. 14 Cerberus and _struggles_.
I love hearing like all these like crazy nicknames, but for yourself, where did Admiral X come from?
So it's going, I'm going to really age myself here, probably. It actually started way back in the day, StarCraft and a guild there. And I used to have another kind of nickname that I used, and then it became that I wanted to put my like rank within the guild as Admiral, and then the group name was tilde X tilde, so it became Admiral X, and then over time I've added like Mr. Admiral X, so my nickname for a while was Max. Actually, I didn't for Activate. I wanted to use my actual nickname.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was already taken,
Yeah,
which
no,
I
I didn't
was
even think of that.
really surprised because my nickname is Brojo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
yeah, so that's kind of where it came about, and then it's kind of had different amalgamations of that, and that's also what I use for quite a bit of things. So, yeah.
Totally. Speaking a little bit on that fun part of kind of picking your username and just kind of like, joking around with friends and stuff, with so many passionate players behind Activate, how important do you think that the community is to you? Like the Activate community? And do you think it's essential for the success of the game?
I think for myself, it kind of comes down to, it's like any game kind of space. Like, as I said, I'm in video games, so it's like trying to appeal to the casual versus the hardcore crowd. I think the community definitely is helpful towards that like hardcore community, especially like the Discord, having discussions on strategies, or coming up with the badge list if you're wanting to try to figure out where all the Easter eggs and whatnot is. But I know for locally, like I'm expanding out more in that the realm of the player community, but like the staff community is also like tremendous. Like at our location, we like, I'm recognized by name now on bookings, which I don't know. I think there's worse places to definitely be known as a regular, but it's kind of a weird feeling to be like, oh, hey, it's so-and-so working tonight. And and then like sometimes hopping in the games with them as well, and helping them with their own rivalries. I know, because we recently got Strike, and it was like we helped one of the staff there. They joined us, and it was just like they ended up growing so much on the staff leaderboards because we pushed them higher than anyone else at the time. So they had a little bit of bragging rights themselves.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, something that's been touched on a couple times in this podcast now is just like, the staff are fantastic at Activate, especially, I guess. I've always known Winnipeg West really well, and then I started getting into Regina, and I was like, man, the workers are great here too. So I'm glad to hear that that's kind of like a Canada-wide thing, and just cross locations. Like, it's just such a fun community, and I love how just like each of the workers is passionate about the game and their job. Yeah, no, it's just fantastic to make those connections. What improvements or changes would you like to see in future versions of things, whether that's games or just the community experience, the Activate facility itself?
I mean, it's been touched on a number of times, and we've said, and I'll reiterate, like an app or a online component would be absolutely great to be able to check things, cross-reference. Like Activate Scores was great when it was able to pull data, and like I like to be able to compare like what it was that I did my last session to this session, that kind of thing. As I said, referral bonus would be great. It's not absolutely necessary, but I mean, I just enjoy things in general. Getting new games would be fun, but I'm quite happy with where things are at. And as I said, it's all always about balancing the like casual versus the hardcore, and you don't want to go too far in one direction because it's probably going to be detrimental to the other.
Speaking of the new games, did you have a chance to listen to the first episode?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so they're coming up with some new games soon. So their goal is to get seven cooperative games and 3 competitive games in every room, starting with Mega Grid. And I've helped test a few of the games. I'm just telling you, they're awesome. So there's definitely something to look forward to there, and I'm glad that that hopefully is a dream come true for you and a lot of players, I'm sure. Because it's been a while since a new room has popped out.
And fixing the kind of idiosyncrasy with Mega Grids having 9 levels, right? I heard that as well, coming where we're going to get actual 10. So that's nice. No longer, the number of games ending with a 9. It's also weird being at the point now where I can name all the games and describe them, and then like try to recall like what differentiates between the different levels. I'm like, this is just extra amusing to me, especially like I was trying to explain to somebody like what the different type of games are, and before I knew it, I pulled all of the games and my own description of them, and I'm like, here's like a 3-page document of everything you could possibly want to know as a beginner, but I'm probably overwhelming you, so I'm going to stop. Not going into the competitive aspect yet, but no, I look forward to that.
Yeah, I definitely have been in the same boat where it's like, yeah, I've gotten into like the crazy. My biggest thing is like I love checklists. So like they got like the score checker online where you can kind of like see which levels you completed. It would be really nice to have an app where you can check that, because you have to like, scroll between each one and click on different things and make it whatever. So I was just like, why don't I make this simple for myself? So I wrote out every game that was in the facility and every level that I had not completed. And I used that for like the entire year to get like until I got 100% at Winnipeg West. And then now I've made another one for Regina, and it's super helpful and it's really nice to see. And just like stuff like that, people are always like, holy crap, like you spent a bunch of time doing that. But it's like when you really love it, like you just spend the time, and it's crazy that like something that a lot of people just see as, oh, like it's a fun hobby. It happens from year to year, like maybe pop by a couple times in a month, but that's kind of like the max amount of effort that a lot of people put into it, or just what they see. But any place that can really just provide a safe space for someone, and kind of like, it's not just like a gym where you're getting active, and it's not just like a facility where you go, every once in a while, and it's just like, that was fun. It's like there's really a community there, and just a big it's really just a great experience in general. And I think that that's really, really powerful when it comes to Activate.
Yeah, another reason we bring up the website and whatnot as an amusing thing. One of the players in our group, we noticed, because they're further behind, and we were trying to figure out where they had lacking levels comparatively for them. And then we realized in one of the games that they had completed level 1, 3, and 9. And so we just never saw that.
Oh, yep.
It's like, well, I guess this is a bit of a delta.
Yeah, might as well fill in the gaps there.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Especially because they...
that happens.
Yeah, especially because they were in the tournament, and one of the levels that they hadn't completed was in the tournament. So it's like that was their first time actually doing it. But then afterwards realizing that, hey, it's you've never actually done this, so good job.
That's funny. Love that. Just a little bit on the more personal side here. When you're not at Activate, what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I mean, I play quite a bit of video games, since that's where my job lies, and I want to be active in that. I have 2 corgis, so it's quite a bit of time with them as well. And then it's just like going out and doing things with my wife, just dinners and going for walks and that kind of thing. So or just hanging out with friends. Like the group that we go to Activate with, we typically also like get together like once a week or so and do miscellaneous things, play games, or a little bit of board games, that kind of thing, and reading.
For sure, yeah. So, looking ahead, what are some of your future goals for Activate?
My personal goal is I would love to be able to eventually break the 2 million barrier. I mean, certainly when the expanded games comes out, that'll help. Like we have Climb and Control, so those are 2 rooms that definitely have less games, so that if there's anything more for that, that'll definitely benefit. But also we're probably going to be starting to push badges and see if we can maybe get to the point where we have most, or if not all of them. So, and also just completing all the games in general, and figuring out, strategies, and also playing with different people, I think, is kind of our overall goal.
Well, yeah. Okay. So just kind of to wrap things up here, I've got a few quick kind of rapid fire style questions. So just kind of, I'll ask them to you. Just give it your gut answer. We can like evaluate on it a little more after, but just say what kind of pops off the top of your head when I do it. Sound good?
Yeah.
Sweeto. Okay. What's your favorite Activate game?
My favorite Activate game. I'm going to go with probably at this point, I like Spellinator for some reason.
Are you really good with words, or like do you just like the kind of concept of kind of like that there's a bunch of different options of how to beat it, or like can you think of any idea why you'd enjoy that game more so?
I think it's a game that I feel like it's a good in between break game, and it's a game that we can typically do quite well, and it's a little bit different each time. And I mean, Hyde as a whole has really grown on me as a room. Like initially I was kind of meh about it, but now I quite enjoy most of the games in there. So, and Spellinator is just the one that came to mind off the top of my head.
Okay, so if you could play with any two players from around the world, who would they be and why?
I don't really know. I don't have a full sense of everyone's styles to fully be able to differentiate people's playthings. I mean, I really enjoy playing with the group that I have because like one of them is my brother, and just getting to spend time with him. I know that's kind of outside of the spirit of this question, but yeah, like I mean,
no, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so just before we wrap up here, is there anything else in particular you'd like to share?
I mean, what? Like, I'll turn it back on you, and something that you asked Corwin in the last podcast that I got to listen to. What was your proudest moment?
Oh, okay, that's a really good question. Kind of a series of things that happened. It was just like I ended up moving from Winnipeg to Saskatoon earlier this year, or I guess last year. And I remember being like, hey, you know what? By the end of this summer, I want to be on the leaderboard. And I was like, I'd love to be higher up, but I was just like, hey, I'm just going to start with that goal. I'd love to be on the leaderboard by the time I move away from Winnipeg. And then I went with a few of my friends, there with Corwin, Greg, Amelia, and Nathaniel, sometimes with Chris. And like I slowly got up there and I was like, boom, okay, I was on the leaderboard. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, you know what? Like I want to be top 10. And I kept practicing and going hard, and I finally made my way up to top 10. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I wonder if I could beat 100% of the levels. And that kind of was the moment where I was like, it was getting kind of close to the time that I was moving, and I was playing like tons and just like kind of getting to the point where I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to beat this one before I go. But I remember just grinding it out and planning and meeting with different people, and different people had like different abilities to kind of overcome certain games. Like again, Gondam and Lily were really good at things like gems and strategy and stuff like that, whereas like Nathaniel killed it in Mega Grid and stuff with Chris. And like, yeah, no, it was just kind of like that process of going through. And then I remember like the final 2 games that we played is the kids just needed Terminal 10. So yeah, we beat Terminal 10, and then we went and I got me Flash Mines that very same night, and we all just celebrated like we all got that 100% as a team. And it's just kind of like all of my summer, like all those goals just finally felt complete. And that was definitely a proud moment for me. Sorry, that was kind of a mouthful.
Oh, no, very sweet. I hope to be able to experience that feeling at some point for myself. Well, thanks for sharing.
Totally. Yeah, no, of course. You got it. You'll get there. I think that like with enough determination, any group of players could get there. So yeah, no. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Bryan. It was great to have you and just find out a little bit of like a different playing style, especially just, it was a blast talking to you.
Absolutely. I very much appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on something that is so much fun and just a great experience and community to be a part of.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, audience, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to drop any questions you got in the comments. We hope you enjoyed. And as always, keep activated.
You've been listening to the Ready, Set, Activate podcast. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on the next episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, keep activating.